It's the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to another part of our Football Friday. As promised, I've been working on this particular interview. And I got to tell you, I've gone through hoops, valleys, fire pits, and everything, but I think it's going to be worth your time and definitely something that you're going to learn from. We're going to present to some and introduce to others, none other than from Box-To-Row Donal Ware. How you doing, sir?
Mike, yeah, you're right. It took a little while, but man, I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate you having me on.
Well, look, man. Before we get into this thing, a lot of people they may know of the work that you're doing, and if they're not aware of it, it's an exceptional job. I mean, you've been doing it for a while now, but you actually started out as an SID, right?
Yeah, you took me back to my SID days. Yeah, so that's great. So my first job was actually the sports information director at North Carolina A&T. That was from '99 to 2001. Not even quite 2 years. Got a call from NC State. I had done some work at the ACC. Well, actually, with the NCAA tournament in 2001, it was in Greensboro, and the ACC was running it. And went in there, pulled up my sleeves. You know how we do things, and I think that was shown to the SID at NC State at the time. She gave me a call, said she had a position open, asked me to apply for it. I did, and I was at NC State for a year, and that was Philip Rivers' sophomore year. So that was cool. And then took a position as the assistant athletic director for sports information and marketing at Shaw for 3 years. And after that, Mike, I got out the game. Like, I respect the game, but I got out. It was time to do something else.
Absolutely, and that led you to your projects that you're working on today, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, I always had a love for radio when I was a student at Morgan State. I was under the tutelage of Lamont Germany, who is still the voice of the Bears, has done it for 40 years, and, just doing like the play-by-play and so forth. But he also had a sports talk show that he hosted, and I was a huge fan of sports talk going all the way back to my days in D.C. when Tony Kornheiser, I think he may have been one of the first syndicated radio hosts, but Tony Kornheiser loved Jim Rome, so on and so forth. So I always had a love for radio.
Absolutely, and you know what? Radio will never die. I don't care what anyone says. I am a radio junkie myself, and I appreciate content that's all over the country, and you can never get too much of talk radio.
No, you can't. And I have to even go back to, I say Tony Clark, I have to go back to when I was so when I was young, and that's great. I'm glad you said that. So when I was young, see, a lot of people know Larry King. I know you know Larry King as a radio guy, but I'm saying a lot of
old? Are you calling me old, brother?
no. Well, I'm old. Look, like I'm old. What? Because I remember Larry King as a radio guy. Most know him as a TV personality. Of course,
Right.
he's gone on. He's retired. But he was a radio guy. I used to listen to his show almost every night if, the Washington Capitals hockey game wasn't on or the Bullets weren't playing or the Orioles weren't playing. I used to listen to Larry King every night.
There you go. There you go. And see, those are some of the ground roots. And when it boils down, it's really about communicating, the ability to hear and be heard.
No, absolutely. And, that is, it, it is that. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, regardless of, whether it's, I know everybody's into the video and TV and all that kind of stuff today, but I'm into it too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm old school and very much enjoy radio.
Yes, sir. So it's not going to fade. So as they say, get in where you fit in because it's a proven commodity and it's a proven effective commodity, I might add with that. We're speaking right now with Donal Ware of Box-To-Row. Let's talk about that for a minute. I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about your current situation. But how did you get Box-To-Row off the ground, and what was the creation process for that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, while I was at Shaw, I enjoyed, sort of the work, smaller school promoting it. I enjoyed that, but I also, knew that I needed to kind of go step out and do my own thing. And as a matter of fact, the Shaw women's team was in Hot Springs, Arkansas at the Elite Eight. It was a good program. So, and I had a lot of downtime. So I started creating this, a program. Love, like I said, sports talk radio. Felt like we could do it and do something on a national level with respect to HBCUs. And so just sort of started formulating some stuff, making some calls, that type of thing, and really just started it on my own. Started it with 5 radio stations, paid for the airtime. We started August 20th, 2005 when we came on the air. We were on in Raleigh, Birmingham, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and Atlanta. And, just sort of took off. Really wanted to promote HBCU sports, talk HBCU sports along the lines of what Jim Rome and others were doing, but from an HBCU standpoint, but not ignoring the other sports and general sports as well. And so that's sort of how it started, man. And this, 14 years later, we're still rocking and rolling.
Still rocking and rolling, and then might I add, doing an exceptional job, brother. They say keep the banner waving high. Now, you get over here, you're the voice of the A&T Aggies, and it's no secret that they have really taken the bull by the horn, and they have been the role model, and I hate to label it as this, but it is what it is, the role model HBCU program and how it should be done. What do you attribute that success to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to point to the leadership at A&T, and I think it certainly begins with Dr. Harold Martin, who's of course, the chancellor at the university, but a lot of it also specific to athletics is about Earl Hilton, who's the athletics director. Now, I had a chance to work with Earl when I was the SID at A&T. He was an associate athletics director then, and he's kind of stuck around at A&T, not just in athletics, but in other places until he became interim AD. I think it was 2012. And once he became interim AD, I knew then that title was going to be removed shortly because, he was a guy of structure. He was very meticulous, very detailed. And so I think it really begins with him and some of the things that he's implemented. And we can talk about football, and obviously football has been very successful, but the athletics department as a whole at A&T has been very successful. And I think a lot of that has to do with the athletics director, Earl Hilton.
Okay. And here's the $64,000 question as far as I am concerned. It's no doubt the success that the MEAC has had when it comes to head-to-head competition. And I played in the SWAC, been covering the SWAC 30-plus years. From outside looking in, you being a MEAC guy, what is the perception of the SWAC?
Wow. I think tradition. I think when you talk about SWAC, particularly football, I think you talk more about from a tradition standpoint. Obviously, the SWAC is much older than the MEAC. The MEAC was, was created in 1969, played its first sports, if you will, or athletics in 1970. But, I think it's football, and it's probably less about basketball, although, I think that's a bad perception because if you look at some of the great, great players that have come out of the SWAC basketball-wise. You look at Southern and the success that Southern had. You look at Bobby Fields. You look at a Lindsey Hunter. You look at some of these guys that have had a lot of success from a basketball standpoint and other sports as well. But I think it's more so about football, and I think it has a great perception when it comes to football. Now, we can argue all day who's better between the SWAC and MEAC in terms of football, but you cannot argue tradition. You cannot argue attendance, and the SWAC is all about that.
Right. Well, there is no argument of late. We got to play a little bit of catch up to even things out on the playing field, but the tradition is absolutely there, and the heritage is absolutely there. Celebrating 100 years this year of being in existence. Donal, we understand the ebbs and flows of things that go on, but a lot of people, when they hear a radio broadcast, they hear a talk show, they don't know about the hours of research and the prep that goes, into these things. Give us a breakdown of a typical prep for a football game versus that of a weekly talk show.
Wow, man, that's a great question. See, Mike, and you and I respect you and admire you because you asked some great questions also during the SWAC weekly press conference, which is how I got to know you a little bit.
Yes, sir.
That is like an awesome question. So, with respect to the radio show, I mean, it's a lot of prep work. So I do have a team, but in terms of, booking guests and things of that nature, I mean, that's something that I generally do. So probably Monday is what I would call an administrative day. You try to, line up your guests for the week, make those calls, make those emails, etc. It's also a week where you, obtain sponsorship, even though I know we're talking about prep for the radio program. And then it's just, okay, what are, you bounce it off your team. What are some of the topics what are the hot topics? What are some of the things we're going to talk about? And so because also in addition to HBCU, we do a lot of, other things, general sports, probably less about big-time college sports, unquote, if you will, but more about pro sports and then some celebrity stuff as well. So we kind of figure out, okay, what are some of the hot topics? What do we want to talk about? Who we're going to have on, as a guest, that type of thing. And then, of course, on the weekend for an hour, it's pretty much showtime. When you're talking about preparing for a football game, it's one of those deals where you jump on the weekly call. In this case, it would be the MEAC weekly call to kind of get a feel for the particular coach and what he's talking about. Then I would, do a one-on-one with that coach a little bit later on in the week. I know A&T well enough that, I brush up on A&T, but I want to know more about the opponent that's being played. So you definitely want to study sort of that opponent. I'm less about studying the rosters per se and the numbers. That to me comes along, and you kind of memorize those things as the game goes on. But I mean, I guess those are some of the things. It's all about prep, regardless of whether you're doing a radio show, whether you're doing calling a game, football, basketball, whatever it is. It's all about the preparation. So, that's sort of how I prep between, radio show and calling a game.
Very good. Because a lot of people, when they hear it, and I say the difference between a novice and a professional is supposed to make you feel like you can just walk up there and do it until it's time for you to actually do it. Because it's like, man, these guys just flowing and rolling off stuff, but they don't understand the prep that it takes to get these things off and running smoothly. So I appreciate you dropping some insights on that. Now, when it comes for you building the brand, and a lot of people don't realize this too, they hear you for an hour, they listen to you for 2 or 3 hours on a broadcast, but this is almost like a sleep-deprived deal that you have to deal with, man, when it comes to making sure you're meeting deadlines and getting things accordingly for a quality show, because your name is on this thing. And if it's raggedy, then that's a reflection on you.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's like even 14, like you said, you've been doing this 30 years, especially with HBCUs. We're 14 and a half years in. So, we've just done it half of what you've done it, but we're still we're always building. Like, not everybody in HBCU knows about Box-To-Row, which I think we need to do a better job of that. But the other thing is that I feel like we're able to do is we're able to bring HBCU to the non-HBCU person. And we're very proud of that, and we're able to do that through doing some other things, not just HBCU. So that's one of the things, we also look to do as well. But, it's always a deal about building the brand that is absolutely continuous. And you're right. I mean, there's some days I'm dragging, man. There's some days I don't feel like doing it, to be honest with you, but it's got to be done. And to the point, if you want to continue to build the brand, that has to be the mindset, even on days that you don't want to do it.
Absolutely. There is no such thing as an off day.
Right.
And that is a tribute to the dedication and the necessary focus that you have to have in order to pull this thing off. And you'll be amazed that somebody will hear a show or two that you've done, and they be, oh, man, that was pretty cool. When did you get started? I'm like, bro, I've been rolling on this thing for quite some time now, but you don't do it for the recognition. Let me say, I don't do it for the recognition. I do it because it's a part of my DNA. It has become a part of me. And when we first started doing this thing, I'm going like, no one talks about us unless there's a shooting on the campus, unless there's a scandal on the campus. Well, let me cover that, some of the positive things. Now, I still cover the shootings and the scandals. Now, don't get it wrong, because I'm about accountability and responsibility across the board. So we have to be steady on the grind, but meanwhile being conscious enough to know that there's a responsibility to come with what we're doing.
No, I think you hit it right on the head, and that's why even outside of the HBCU sports realm, I mean, we stopped. Be honest with you, Mike, I stopped talking about Donald Trump a long time ago. It's just a waste of time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
you
sir.
only got an hour. I got an hour to get what I need. I mean, if I spend every week the hour talking about that. But there are other things that are going on in our community that we definitely like to talk about. But we also, when we have guests on, we also like to really not get in a guest's personal business, but to enlighten the listener. So we'll dig a little bit deeper than on the surface than what you may think you know about that guest, especially if it's a celebrity type or somebody that's big in athletics. So that's one of the things that we certainly look to do as well.
It's just like we're doing with you right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. On the other side of this.
Yes, sir. We're talking with Donal Ware of Box-To-Row. Now, here's another little tidbit that people probably are not aware of, Donal, and I'm going to give you a chance to expound upon this. You were on the play-by-play radio call for the 2009 State Fair Classic between Grambling and Prairie View when Prairie View got the win. Can you recap that?
And you're taking me back. I just remember. So we have a good, we have an excellent, an excellent relationship with the promoter of the State Fair Classic, and that's just something that I think we did. Let's see, we did it in 2009, we did it in 2008. It seemed like we did it maybe in 2011 or something like that. But that's just a great relationship. Matter of fact, if my memory serves me correctly, in that 2009 season, and I got to be honest with you, even though it was 10 years ago, I don't remember. You said PV won. Okay, cool. I don't remember.
Hey, trust me. I'm telling you that one. As a PV alum, PV won that game in 2009. Trust me when I tell you.
No, I believe you. And we actually broadcast the game. So we were at that time. We had Classic Sports Radio Network. We were broadcasting games all across the country on various stations. So we had like a station in Pittsburgh, we had a station in D.C. And the one thing I do remember, we had was it KHVN? It's in Dallas was picked that game up. As a matter of fact. So I just I tell you what, man, we can you can. And I love the Bayou Classic. Been to the Bayou Classic. But boy, that State Fair Classic is serious. And plus the fact that both PV and Grambling have been really, really good. You look at the last 5-6 years, that game has become big, even bigger. Not bigger, but it's gotten back to, or is trying to get back to where it once was when it was getting 60,000 easily.
Absolutely. The last year, it is last year. 2019 number was right at 52,000, something along those lines, and they're still working. Al Wash, who happens to be the promoter, he's good friends with the network here as well. I think he does an exceptional job at promoting that game and working some things out, which is going to kind of lead me to this next question as far as the net worth or the perception of what the worth is and the actuality of what the worth is. And I know it's hard to put a price tag on the HBCU brand of football, and I'm going to stick in the football realm for right now. But I think people fail to remember is that what we have with this MEAC SWAC Celebration Bowl is a very unique piece. It is the only game in this bowl circuit that is of the FCS status and is holding its own ratings and holding its own when it comes to the attendance.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I don't know if I could even guess the value, but I tell you what, it's more valuable. And I agree with everything you just said. I think, you're alluding to the show piece of it. So it's on ABC. The previous 4 years, it was the bowl game that led into all of the other bowl games. So it's good in that respect. But it's worth more than the $1 million that the respective conferences are getting. I'll tell you that much.
Hold on. I don't clear my ears out here. Let me clear my ears out. What did you just say?
It's more. It's worth more than that.
Oh, okay.
It's worth more than what the conferences are getting. But I get it. I mean, I think that's something that needs to be looked at and worked on in terms of more revenue. Because remember, when this thing first came out, it was sold as the winner of each school would get the $1 million, and then it became something else, and then you find out the winners are getting maybe $750,000. The conference gets the rest. They divvy it up. That I think that needs to be smoothed out a little bit. I think you and I were talking off mic a little bit with the ESPN deal, and it's a great point you make. No other FCS conference has a deal with ESPN other than the MEAC and the SWAC. I get that, but there's a value, there's a tradition that is worth much more than I think what ESPN is giving to the conferences and the schools. We can make the argument that it's on ABC. We got a game Thursday night on ESPN. The MEAC has a nice, a solid, I would say, a relationship and an agreement with ESPN to broadcast all of its games on ESPN3, and all of those things are great. All of the exposure is great, but the dollars and cents is what is going to make our schools better. So we need to get some more of those dollars and cents.
Absolutely. And I know you keep your finger on the pulse of this thing. The MEAC just announced their extension, if you would, with Flow Sports for the 2020 campaign. They're going to be having some select basketball games, baseball, softball, and some other sports. That is a pretty unique situation as well.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. I mean, I don't know. I haven't delved into, how much does the conferences get? Does Flow give, the conference, the MEAC a certain amount? I mean, I'm sure it has to be, but I don't know that. Or is it they get to sell a certain amount of commercial spots, like with the ESPN deal? I think the conference is able to sell, a certain amount of spots or whatever during the ESPN broadcast. But I would hope so. And if not, I hope we're working towards that. Okay, so we can establish this relationship in the beginning, but ultimately we need to be working towards, because our schools are struggling. Like at the end of the day, we're struggling from a financial standpoint. And we're obviously, you got these big conferences that are getting these ultra millions of dollars and have these great deals. Well, pound for pound, we need to have those kind of dollars coming to our schools as well.
You're preaching to the choir, brother. We're talking with Donal Ware of Box-To-Row. Look, there is an important game, and I don't want to put no pressure on you, man, but I'm about to put some pressure on you.
All right.
2020, North Carolina A&T takes on North Dakota State. Their best against our best. How important is this game beyond the game?
That's a great point, Mike. I was thinking about this as the Celebration Bowl ended. We talked about, A&T is going to start the season off, against North Dakota State. I think it's a very important game, particularly, for A&T. As the, and I get it, I'm the play-by-play voice, but I mean, at the end of the day, when you're the HBCU champions 3 times over, it speaks for itself. So as the preeminent football program in all of HBCU football, it's a very important game. A&T is representing HBCUs, but remember, A&T also represented HBCUs in the game against Jacksonville State. In Montgomery going back to 2017. Now, I get it. Jacksonville State's not North Dakota State. I understand that. A&T came away with the victory, in essence, in the backyard of Jacksonville State. Also beat ECU. That's something different, but beat an FBS opponent also. So I think it's huge. I think if A&T, A&T obviously wants to go out and win the game. If not win the game, you want to at least make it respectable. And North Dakota State is like a machine. I mean, let's be honest about that. It's the premier football program in all of FCS. And if you're A&T, you're trying to go out and win. And if not, you want to at least make it and play respectable. And I think A&T, at the very least, will do that. If not, go to North Dakota and pull off the upset.
Well, my brother, I don't try to be biased, but I'm going to definitely be biased on this one. We're pulling for the Aggies from beginning to end. Look, I want to thank you very much, man. It has been worth the wait, and I want to give you an opportunity to share some thoughts and comments and how people can listen to your program across the country.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, Mike. So, so people can log into our website, which is Box-To-Row.com, BoxToRow.com. That's where they can find a radio station, perhaps in their locale, that carries the program. It also airs on Sirius XM, channel 141 each Saturday. That would be 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, and 4 a.m. Pacific Time. That's on channel 141. And then also on Saturday, on channel 142, 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and 6 a.m. Pacific Time. I appreciate you allowing me to come on, and I appreciate the conversation. Like I said, I appreciate you, man. When I hear you with your questions. I think a lot of times, us as reporters will just ask general questions, but you have specific questions that you ask to these coaches. So I appreciate you and also what you're doing in the radio space and with HBCUs.
Well, I appreciate it, my brother. Donal Ware of Box-To-Row. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We appreciate you all, as always, joining in with us. Don't forget, our social media handles for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are all at The Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is Open Mic Broadcast Network, and our 24-hour dial-in message line, 713-570-6736. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.